Welcome to another episode of Completely Cricket Podcast, where you get your weekly cricket news in under 40 minutes. In today's episode, we'll be looking at cricket news over the last week, England-West Indies series dilemmas, the second part of our Future Stars series, and upcoming cricket over the next week.
If you don't know what the Future Stars series is, basically, me and Avinash, we each make squads of cricket talents who are under 25 years of age each week. Last week, we did the T20 version. I would recommend you check that out. This week is the ODI episode. So we'll be discussing our ODI squad, which we made just prior to this episode. And next week, we're going to be looking at our test squads. So the criteria for this is that the players must be under 25 years of age and they must have played under 20 matches. So that's what we're going to be doing today, so the ODI version. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah, let's start with the series results over the last week. The two main series that probably dominated what people were watching is the Australia-Sri Lanka T20s and the India-Sri Lanka T20s that are still going on. The series is still continuing. There's actually the third T20s happening today. The series is India-Sri Lanka. It's India leading 2-0. I think the key points of that series would be Ishan Kishan sort of coming of age, scoring very well, batting impressively. You know, he's rather than just being explosive, getting out very quickly, sort of shown he can build up an innings pretty well, especially when Rohit Sharma hasn't really been scoring much. And Shreyas Iyer, also he's played at 25 T20s, but he's shown that he can really score and he's got a really healthy average and a good strike rate. And him as well as a number 3 batsman, I think he's like the perfect player as a number 3. Sort of questions where Virat Kohli comes into your team in T20s. So I think Virat Kohli's T20 exploits for internationally might come towards an end. But anyway, what are the key points of the Australia T20 series, Zaid?
So far we've got the Australia Sri Lanka, and then it's 4-1. It was 4-1 how it ended, and it may seem like sort of demolishing, but Sri Lanka, they did do quite well in a couple of the games. We saw a super over in one of the games. It was nice to see a super over. We've also seen Australia's bowling attack. It's improving. The consistency is being much better. We've got, obviously we know about Mitchell Starc, excellent bowler. We've also got Josh Hazelwood, and he's been getting regular wickets. Economy is always very good. And we've also got another bowler, Kane Richardson. He's been doing really well. I think in one of the games he got 3 wickets, 21, I think it was, and very good economy. So as a whole, I think Australia doing very well with their bowling. It's really been improving in consistency. And yeah, Sri Lanka, they're looking really good. I think just a couple of close encounters could have gone either way, really. And I think Sri Lanka are really an improving team. I'm sure in the future they've had some really good series going on, plenty of cricket for them. And against Australia, I think Sri Lanka did really well. I think Kishan Mendes, he had some good innings. And yeah, so Sri Lanka came just close there, 4-1, but I think Sri Lanka will improve, and Australia, obviously an improving team, doing really well. And yeah, so Sri Lanka will improve, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Australia really playing like the team that won the World Cup last year. With the World Cup coming this year, Australia look really comfortable, and I also think Sri Lanka look pretty decent as well. They've shown that they can fight. They've got a load of new players coming in. I think we talked about Hishtikshana last episode in our T20 Future Stars series. He's like a mystery spinner, and he can bowl with a good turn, and he can get some good flight as well. I think with the T20 World Cup coming, I think it's towards the end of this year, and that's in Australia. Australia looking really, really well to get another T20 World Cup. 2 in 2 years would be incredibly impressive. But that's just speculation, pretty much. But yeah, starting to come to the main part of this episode, I think what we wanted to talk about was the England-West Indies series that's coming up soon, and the selection issues that England are having. We've had Joe Root publicly say that he thinks he's the right man to go to number 3 in the batting order, previously being in number 4 throughout the entire of last year and scoring 1,700 runs, which is the 3rd most ever in a calendar year for Test cricket. But some reason he wants to move up to number three. It might seem a bit like why are you disturbing something that's going so well, but I think there is a bit of thought into it, and I think it could be successful. What do you feel about in Joe Root moving to number three, Zaid?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really good move. I think a few episodes ago I actually said I really want to see him in number three. I think he brings much more solidity in that top order. Obviously, we've seen the top three; they've really been struggling, really in the Ashes and previously. And yeah, I really think Joe Root will bring that sort of stability into that top order. And I think we've also got a new opening partnership. I think Alex Lees. I think he's coming in to open with Zach Crawley. So it's looking good at the top. I think it's the right decision to bring Joe Root at number three. I think he's correct in wanting to go there. And like that was really what I was thinking. If he wants to go there, then yeah, then so I just think Joe Root is the correct decision to put him at number three because he's had an amazing past couple of years. We've seen him in Sri Lanka, India, everywhere really. He's been getting loads of runs. So I think at number three, he'll be able to get more stability. And also, we've got some great young players coming in. I think we've got Ben Foakes, we've got Dan Lawrence. They can also show what they're made of. That also gives them opportunity in the middle order for players to come in. So yeah, I think it's the correct decision for Joe Root to be at number three. And yeah, what do you think about it?
Honestly, yeah, you're pretty much right, but there's also the flip side. Because obviously, if you move him up to number three, who's going to be your number four? And they have to be as a number four. You got to do what Joe Root did, and that means being solid, scoring at a good pace. That's the real key thing. A number four batsman, even if they come in early with England's like previously shaky openers and top order, they still need to be able to obviously stop the flow of wickets and then start scoring really positively. I don't think there's anyone really like who can do that role. Like, okay, you could say Ben Stokes, but Ben Stokes is more suited to a number five where the ballers, by the time he comes in, it might be swinging less and there'll be less shine on the ball. He can play a lot freely. I don't think he's suitable for a number four. So for me, as a England fan, I would be worried because if you're going to move Joe Root to number three, you're going to have a vacancy in number four. And I don't think there's anyone to fill that space. Do you think there's anyone who could possibly be our number four permanently, like a long-term number four?
Well, I think that I agree with you. I don't think there's anyone really that can take on that role for what Joe. Obviously, we want number four. We want to have what Joe Root did, but I still think if Joe Root moves to number three, yes, you've got a vacancy in number four. But for me, that 4 to 7 role, for me, those four players are probably going to be Dan Lawrence, Johnny Bairstow, Ben Stokes, and Ben Foakes. I'd probably have Dan Lawrence at number four. Obviously, he's young, and I don't think he'll provide exactly what Joe Root has been able to do. In the short time we've seen him play Test cricket, I think he's really been doing well. So I think at number four, that'll be for me. I think he'll do well at number four, and obviously with Joe Root at number three, you're probably assuming that Joe Root's gonna, as well when Dan Lawrence come in, Joe Root's either still there or has already got you a nice platform to build off. So I think Dan Lawrence will be much more comfortable batting once he's got Joe Root. He knows Joe Root's there just ahead of him. So he's got someone you can rely on if he's not really if he's a bit struggling, he can take some time if he needs to. And I think he's the correct man for number four. So for me, I think I would have Zach Crawley, Alex Lees opening, then Joe Root three, Dan Lawrence four, then probably Ben Stokes five. As you said, Ben Stokes more suited to number five. We've seen him in the Ashes before, amazing player. And then I'd probably get Johnny Bairstow six and Ben Foakes seven. And I think that top seven looks much better than the Ashes. I think it looks much more solid. And yeah, I just think bring Joe Root to three and Dan Lawrence at four. I think it's going to be much more of a much more of a comfortable role for all the players because Joe Root, I don't think it really matters where Joe Root goes. I think he will perform no matter what. I think there's some stats he got. His average for opening was I think 40 or 30, and then top five he obviously does well. So Joe Root's okay. I just think that Dan Lawrence will do well after he knows that Joe Root he can be comfortable there with Joe Root knowing ahead of him.
Yeah, I think it also shows that England have sort of even though Dawid Malan did pretty decently in the first few at Australia tests, and he's a batsman who can wipe the shine off the ball, and he is a number three in T20 cricket, and he can also be a number three in Test cricket. But it sort of looks like they've completely overlooked him and sort of dismissed his future because obviously with the England resetting their team and Dawid Malan not even being involved, people like Dom Sibley also not being involved, it's sort of suggesting that that England have gone past Dawid Malan, which I don't really think is fair. I think he should be really. I think Dawid Malan has done enough to deserve his number three spot. What do you feel about Dawid Malan?
Yeah, so there's a great point about Dawid Malan. Like, it's a bit unfair on him, but I think that just goes to show that the fact that they have overlooked Dawid Malan and that that batting still looks good. That shows that there has been some change since the Ashes, and I think that just goes to show that their batting has still got some hope. So England, they still got options even if they don't put Dawid Malan in now. I think Dawid Malan has a left hand as well. You always like a left hand combination with the right hander. So for me, maybe I think an option, maybe possibly better option might be to have Dawid Malan back in and Joe Root at number 4. But I don't know what Joe Root really thinks about that at this point. But yeah, I think as you said, Dawid Malan has done enough to earn his role. Like, what more do you want him to do? It's like amazing player. He's in the short time he's been playing, it hasn't been that long, really, if you think about it. I think 2017 he began. So, yeah, I think perhaps it would be a better idea to bring Darlan back in. Or maybe it could be another option to try him as opening, batting, maybe with Zach Crawley or Alex Lees. But for this series, I would go with Alex Lees opening. I really want to see how he plays and what he can show playing the England team. So, yeah, I think it's a bit unfair on Darlan Malan, but it just goes to show that England have a lot of variety, a lot of options to go with.
Yeah. Also, you've mentioned Ben Foakes as your keeper repeatedly. Honestly, he's a good keeper, but Josh Butler, except for like in Australia, he was doing his keeping's perfect, and he didn't really contribute too much to the bat. Johnny Bairstow can keep really well. I don't think Ben Foakes has done enough in terms of run scoring. With England's batting order known to be really fragile, you want score people who scored runs in the past and can score. Ben Foakes has done a few glimpses of his talent, but he wouldn't, for me. I don't think I'd put him in this team. I think I would put someone like Ollie Pope in, but then there's really a question of who's going to be your number 7. I don't think Ollie Pope. I don't really know because I don't know. I think to me, I feel like Dan Lawrence should be a number 7 and Ollie Pope at 4. But then obviously Ollie Pope has just got out really cheaply recently, so it's really it's a complete selection conundrum. But for me, 100% Ben Foakes, I wouldn't put him in the team. I would give keeping to Johnny Bairstow because he can do it perfectly well. He's always scores in the 30s at least, and in terms of England's like expectations, 30 runs is actually quite a lot. Like if 9 batsmen scored 30 runs, that's 270, and that's the highest that we scored in the Ashes. So, I think Johnny Bairstow should do the keeping, and I don't really think putting Ben Foakes in the team is much of a use. But what would you say to justify putting Ben Foakes in the team?
So completely, you have a good point, and Dan Lawrence could be a 7, but I don't think Ollie Pope should really be in the team for me. He's just a bit like I think he lacks experience really to be able to come in, and I think he's a young player. I'm sure in the future he'll obviously come into a test team, but I think just for now I wouldn't really want him. With Ben Foakes, I think I have seen some county matches, and so he's been doing really well for me. I think he's been keeping really well. His batting has looked solid, and I think maybe for this series, maybe just have a go, see where Ben Foakes, maybe 1 or 2 matches, see what Ben Foakes can offer for this team, and if he's doing consistently well, then maybe keep him going. If he's not, then maybe bring someone back, like maybe Josh Butler, or just as you said, maybe gives the gloves back to Johnny Bairstow. So, but for me, for this series, I'm keeping Ben Foakes in that team. I want to see what he can deliver, and I think he's been doing pretty well. And in his county games, he just needs to. Just one thing for him, I just think he needs to just be able to step up his game a little bit, because the difference between county and playing for your country is massive difference. So obviously you need a great 11 that can do that for you. So I think Ben Foakes I would keep him in for this series to start with, and then see how it goes, and then we'll make future plans for later.
Yeah, so I think that a finishing point on this would be that England will need to do as much whatever they can and put the best players they can to get as much batting solidity as possible, even if that means sacrificing, like putting a batsman instead of a bowling all-rounder. As long as we have enough bowlers to cover, I think batting, you're not going to win a test match without batting. That's just the truth. And England, after all their horrible batting last year, and their loss of test matches, they really need to think about how can I get my batting, England team's batting to be as good as possible. But yeah, for all our listeners, comment down below if you're watching on YouTube on who you think should be the keeper for England, because you've got a few options. You know, Ben Foakes, you've got Josh Buttler, you've got Johnny Bairstow, Ollie Pope even. So yeah, comment down below what you think. Anyway, let's go on to the Future Stars ODI squad. We did a T20 one last episode. We're going to go on to the ODI one now. I'll read my squad out. Zaidi, read yours after, and then we'll just talk about the differences between our squads, because I can tell you there's actually quite a few differences. Anyway, my squad, my two openers are Subman, Gill, and Ishan Kishan. Zach Crawley at 3, Dan Lawrence 4, Rachin Ravindra 5, Cameron Green 6, Marco Janssen 7, Xavier Bartlett at 8, Wes Agar at 9, Kais Ahmed at 10, and Umran Malik at 11. Zaid, what's your squad?
So mine is, well, my two openers, Josh Philippe and Ishan Kishan. Then 3, Zach Crawley, 4, Dan Lawrence, 5, Ollie Pope, 6, Cameron Green, 7, Rachin Ravindra, 8, Washington Sundar, 9, Nazim Shah, 10, Jaden Seals, and number 11, Kartik Tyagi.
Cool. So it's a little bit funny, but that we're talking about Ollie Pope and how, it's lack of consistency. Obviously, that's Test cricket, but you've decided to include him in your ODI team at 5. Honestly, he's proven he can score a lot in county cricket, but do you really think he's an ODI player? Do you think that's his style, or do you not think because he doesn't really, in order to be an ODI player, you need to be able to consistently keep up that scoring rate. Like you want to be going at you want to at least have a strike rate of like an 80 to minimum 80 at the start, and then you want to try and keep up to at least 100. A runner ball would be perfect. Do you think Ollie Pope can sustain scoring quickly, or do you think he would sort of just try and start scoring slowly, and then do a rash shot, get out like he has done in Test cricket?
Yeah, so as you said that, immediately what I remembered is I can't remember who it's against, but I think it might have been India. But in in the game in Test match, Ollie Pope once played. I think he remember he got like 30 of I think 25 balls, which was actually I was actually laughing as I was watching that, which is quite funny because he wasn't really doing any risky shots. He was just hitting the ball, and so that's what I immediately remembered. And then that for me. As his whole career, I think Ollie Pope, yes, his consistency has been a bit off at times, but that's really at the adult level. This is really future stars. So I think if we're looking in the future, then obviously he's going to be doing much better. And if we're looking at county cricket, then he's been doing really well, and for Surrey and everything. And I think Ollie Pope, he's a young player. I think he'll be able to do the role that I want him to do. I want him to be at 5, just not playing massive shots, just really just as we say at a young age, just hit the bad ball and just keep the strike moving. So that's what I really want him to do. Just no like rash shots, just low risk option, just keep the strike moving. And I think he'll be able to do that. Just not playing any risky shots. I think if he just continues to do that when he goes out to play county cricket, playing for England and everything he does, I think if he continues to do that, just not getting too carried away, and then I think his consistency will improve much further. So yeah, with Ollie Pope, I would keep him in my team. I think his consistency is not as good, but I think it will improve much more. And just one thing on our squads, I think our top 4, I think is fairly similar, and then the rest of it is it's quite funny actually. The rest of it's just completely different. So you've got, for example, you've got Kais Ahmed. I think for me, Kais Ahmed is more of a T20 bowler because he's sort of a quick leg spinner, which is quite, I like sort of a Rashid Khan, if you get what I mean. And I think Kishan is really more of a T20 bowler for me. Again, something that immediately comes to mind to me is that very hilarious video when he bowled a bouncer Andrew Russell without his helmet. So it's quite good. So in an ODI squad, I think Kishan went for his pace, and I think he would need more variation if he wants to bowl ODI. Keep his bowling long spells, 8 overs, 9 overs, 10 overs. So I think for me, I don't think he should be in an ODI squad, maybe a T20 squad. What do you think on that?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I think with Case Ahmed, I think obviously this is future stars, as you already pointed out. I think that he can slightly adapt his game. The reason why I put him is that um, I think that he has a pretty good amount of accuracy. Obviously, forgetting about the bouncer, like in general, he's got pretty accurate. He goes for in T20 cricket, he goes for a miserly economy. He just hasn't had too many chances in List A cricket and just international ODI cricket. I think if you give him the chance and and keep him in around the international team regularly, then I think he could easily develop into a better ODI bowler. Like, I wouldn't play him for Test 100%, but because I agree with you, but I think that quick spinners can still be effective in ODI cricket as long as he's able to build that strength and sustain the pace and also have variation like Adil Rashid does. Adil Rashid has quicker balls, slower balls, like all bowlers do. But I'm just saying, like Adil Rashid is generally a slower spinner. I would say I wouldn't put him as in the quicker category, but still, Kai Sama can build that up, and that's just development. Yeah. So something I just noticed now. You have Cameron Green 5, Rachin Ravindra 6. Oh no, is that the other? No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have Cameron Green
That's
6,
it.
Rachin Ravindra 7. Sorry, and I have uh I have
Especially the other
Rachin.
way around.
Yeah, no, I've actually got Rachin Ravindra at 5 and Cameron Green at 6. Do you think that Rachin Ravindra, like considering I was just watching some highlights of his performances. I think he scored a century against West Indies A. Yeah, in the Under-19 World Cup in 2018, he was performing really well. And even with New Zealand, he hasn't had too many opportunities, but he's looked like he can score a good pace. Do you really think he's done like he deserves to be at 7? Like I think he should be higher. And I understand. I think Cameron Green's your perfect number 6 because he's just he can score, but he can also provide some solidity as he's shown for Australia. But I don't think Rachin Ravindra deserves to be at 7. Seven's a bit too low for someone of his ability. What do you feel?
Yeah, so I guess sometimes when we make decisions for a team, it's sometimes just sort of like when how much of the player we've seen. I haven't seen much of Rachin Ravindra, but I know that he's a good batsman and his bowling. I think I've really put him there mainly for his bowling. I've only put him at 7 really because I know he can bat, so I'm sure he can get me some runs. But I'm really there for his left arm bowling. We know he got I think 10 wickets it was against India. Marvelous bowling there. So for me, I think I don't want to put him. I don't really want to put him too high. I don't want him batting too much and getting exhausted, and then trying to bowl or the other way around even, and then coming in to try and bowl and then not performing as well. I want him. I want to preserve him for to show, to give me as many wickets, as many best economy as possible. Um, I want him more to do with the ball. That's really my role in the team. So I guess sometimes it's like what you want the player to do in your team. I guess for you, it's more of an all-rounder position, wanting to bat, as you mentioned, he's been doing really well. So for me, I think he's in that number 7 position, mainly to be a bowler, but I've only put him at 7 because I know he can bat. So he can score me some runs whenever needed, at the end of an innings, maybe when you need few runs to finish off the game. So yeah, I don't think he should go at 5 because the role I want him to be in, I don't want him to get too exhausted if he's coming out to bowl later on.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm sort of getting the feeling this is sound like the England selectors last year because like preserve the players etc. But now I completely agree because we've got him in different roles. Your role is to be sort of a finisher as well as mainly a bowler, whereas my role is I want him to actually I want him to kick on. The reason I put him as number 5 is to give him the freedom to score quickly and to really up the run rate in case our top 4 is struggling. I think uh, a point I like to make. Last, in terms of our bowling, the different bowlers we have, you've got you've got four pacers, two spinners, and or three spinners if you count Dan Lawrence. I've got one, two, three, four, five pacers and three spinners. Do you think you got enough pacers? Because you got uh Kartik Tyagi, Seals, Naseem Shah, that's three, and then you got Cameron Green. Do you think that's enough to support your team? And because obviously with a 50 over match, there's a lot more overs, and especially if someone like Kartik Tyagi, you can expect him to get hit for runs as he has in the IPL. He's like he's not exactly he can bowl well, but he's quite expensive because he's pretty young as well. Jaden Seals can keep it tight, and Naseem Shah as well. He's really fast. You've got really fast bowlers, but both expensive, I'd say. Do you think you've got enough pace bowlers, or do you think you could be if you could do the squad again, you'd put another one and maybe reduce the spinners?
Yeah, I think if we're not saying Dan Lawrence is going to bowl, if he might bowl a couple of overs, but for me, I don't think he's going to bowl in my squad. I think in terms of paces, I think I probably have enough. I think four is a good amount for me because you have your two opening bowlers. Let's say they bowl you a nice spell of 8 overs, 4 overs each, maybe. And then yes, you said that some of them are a bit expensive, but then that's what my spinners are there for. They're there to give me some wickets, Washington Sundar and Rachin Ravindra, if Dan Lawrence bowls a little bit maybe. And then my spinners are really there in the middle over just to get the game tight and get their overs in quicker so the over rate's not too slow. So and then obviously get wickets. We've seen both all the spinners ready to do. So I think, and then obviously you have your death bowlers, Cameron Green can also bowl in the middle there. And I think four bowlers is enough. If I'm thinking really, I think you said you had five pace bowlers, I think it was. I think
Yep.
five, yeah, I think it depends like what bowlers have you got. If they're bowlers that are really gonna get like if they're there for your pace really, they're gonna get tired quickly, then maybe five's a good amount. But for me, four pace bowlers, I think that's probably enough because yeah, I think you have, if we think about it logically, then you have two opening bowlers, you have two spinners bowling in the middle. Cameron Green can also slot in there in the middle. Then you have last bit of that, last 10, 15 overs. You can have your other two bowlers, two pace bowlers bowling, and you can also have your opening bowlers finishing off their spells. So I think um fast pace bowlers is enough. I think five is actually getting a bit extensive for me. Um, really, I guess really depends who the bowlers are, what you want them to do. And I haven't really heard of Wes Agar and Xavier Bartlett before, so I don't really know what they're going to do. What are they going to do? I'm not really sure.
Oh yeah, Xavier Bartlett. I've just saw him in the BBL. I think he's more of he would be your sort of your accurate bowler. I wouldn't put him in terms of express pace. Umran Malik would be mine. Yeah, I think the key difference in our squads is that yours has a longer batting. Your team could bat in a lot of depth. Whereas I think for me, I feel that mine would be in terms of bowling potency might be a bit more than yours, but I've sort of given it's sort of left out a bit of the, it's a bit lacking on batting, I'd say, because you've got Cameron Green, Marco Jansen's a bowling all rounder, he can bat, so that's and he also is a left arm pacer. He's like 2 meters tall. He's very tall and he gets a good bounce and can swing it into the right-handed batsman. So he'd be my opening bowler, and I'd probably open with Umran Malik maybe. And then they've got Kais Ahmed and Rachin Ravindra middle overs. But then I've also got Wes Agar, who gives me just another option. Him and Cameron Green could easily also occupy middle overs. And Xavier Bartlett, Wes Agar, both in the BBL have shown they have a knack for taking wickets. And Wes Agar can get good speeds as well. So I think, yeah, so if we were to summarize our squads, I think yours would 100% have more batting solidity. I would still put Naseem Shah at 11 and maybe put Jaden Seals a bit higher. Jaden Seals can bat decently, but like regardless, you guys could bat to at least 9. Whereas mine probably the batting stops at around 7, 8. It will probably after that it's just depends on the circumstances. Can they swing and score a few runs? Yeah. That's it for our future ODI segment. If you've enjoyed that and enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe. This is not the end of the episode, but just a reminder because it really helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Last section, small one. Upcoming cricket in the next week or so. The main highlight would probably be the Women's World Cup starting next Friday, 4th of March. Uh, I think everyone knows Australia are the favourites. In women's cricket, Australia have had this like era of dominance, and they've actually only lost one ODI since the last World Cup, which is actually crazy. But England are also in the mix because yeah, they've also shown, even though they've done well, they've done pretty horribly in the Ashes. They still can show that they can play, and they're England are always in the mix, especially after 2017 where they won. There's also the India Sri Lanka Test series. So following on from the T20, the Test series, I think it'll be more even in terms of how it's been. I think Sri Lanka have a lot more chance. They're actually a pretty good Test team. I'm not sure why Manindu Hasaranga isn't there, but if he's there, they've got a lot more chance. Yeah, I think with Pathum Nissanka, Cherith Asalanka, we talked about both of them in our T20 squads, but they can also do well in Test cricket. But yeah, that's it for this episode today. Thank you, Zaid. Thank you everyone for listening, and see you on the next one where we'll be doing the Future Stars Test squad, which will be very interesting because I'm expecting it to be quite a lot different to our ODI and T20 squads, because obviously we want a type of players who can bat long, who don't need to score at quick run rates like how they have to do in T20 and ODI.